Thank you for joining us today on the program You and the Law on OGTV. This is where we bring you legal practitioners, and together we take a close look at the various societal matters and the stand of the law. My name is Miriam Usman. The program continues after this break. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us again. You're still watching You and the Law on OGTV. Now, more than ever before, countries are gradually changing this economy idea of moving from the resource economy to an intellectual-driven economy. Nigeria, on the other hand, is not left on this train, as stakeholders are beginning to see the need and role of intellectual property and the development in the country. Now, this is a good time for us to talk about the importance and the stand of the law concerning intellectual properties and how individuals can be protected in the country. No doubt you've seen trends, you've seen victims of intellectual property theft and all of that. This is why we are talking about this on the program today. Joining us on the program today is Abeokuta. Did I get your name correctly? Because I try so much to not
very
slander your name.
Very good attempt. My name is Abeokuta. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for joining us today on the program.
So
you are a legal practitioner, but you definitely have an idea about all of these things. And it feels so good because I'm relating with a young person. So intellectual property, practical sense, but before we go deep into the conversation, how can you best describe intellectual property?
All right. I'm going to try and be as practical as possible. Intellectual property is property that is not necessarily as tangible as a physical asset.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it is still property. Property born out of ideas. Ideas are conceived and are put in a fixed form. When ideas are put in certain kind of fixed forms, we call them intellectual property. So those ideas could be your idea of how to sing a song. So you write a song, right? That forms a kind of intellectual property that belongs to you. Your idea could be how to design a dress. So you design the dress, right? And that forms a particular kind of intellectual property that belongs to you. It could be how to make something work. So you invent something, right? And this also becomes intellectual property, right? It could just even be an idea which has not taken any tangible form, which you are still seeking to protect. But because you believe that at some point you are able to harness this particular idea and derive benefit from it, you want it protected. That could still form some form of intellectual property. So generally speaking, intellectual property is property that you have as a result of your intellect. Yes.
Nice. I like the analysis. You see, these days we are so quick to discussing our business ideas, whatever innovation we have with our friends, families, and close ones. And we've seen cases over time where people, raise alarm about a particular idea that was theirs. The next day they're saying someone else implementing it. It happens even in phone conversation, WhatsApp conversations, and all of that. And you wonder, really, how can you lay claim over a particular idea? There's a philosophy that says an idea that strikes you at some point strikes like 1 million persons after or during your own time. So how can one protect a property, an intellectual property?
Okay, that's a beautiful question, by the way. I'm a young person. I'm an entrepreneur too. I have a financial technology startup, right? And prior to starting up my business, it was an idea in my head. And I had to speak with people about this idea. Now, it is, like you said, a lot of young people are rather,
I'm telling you,
very, very protective of their idea. They don't want to tell people. They are like, oh, no, they are going to steal my idea, right?
some do actually, just
Yes.
having casual conversations, and they
Yeah.
let out these things.
I agree. While I actually do encourage the exchange of ideas, I mean, ideas are a dime a dozen. It is execution that really would separate one idea from the other. However, there might still be needs to protect ideas. And to protect your idea, there are different legal vehicles that the law has put in place to help you to protect those ideas. Okay, so for instance, if it has to do with something that is written, okay, we call that a copyright. You have a copyright, or the right to the copy. The copy is the tangible written work. Now, don't forget, I said for it has to be written. So most intellectual property, the law does not recognize protection for it if it is not in a fixed, tangible form, which somebody else can see or can at least hear, right? Because you cannot say it's in my head somewhere. Okay, where did you write it?
Yeah.
Exactly, right?
Evidence.
I was thinking about it. You were thinking about what? So the law wants to see that you fixed it in a particular form that is tangible. And that tangible form must also be something that is unique, right? You cannot say, what is your idea? You say, I wrote the letters of the alphabet, A to Z. You cannot own it.
You have to build it.
You have to put it in a form that makes it more unique. So you must rearrange those letters into words, rearrange those words into sentences, create sentences that form paragraphs, and paragraphs that form a long prose of poetry or what have you, which now conveys a unique idea, right? And so for those kind of written intellectual property, the protection for them are copyrights.
So when you do that, do you hide it under your bed? Do you put it in your folders?
I have a secret for you.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm going to share this secret with every Nigerian that is listening to us right now. The beautiful thing about copyright is that you do not need to do anything for your copyrights to be protected. By virtue of just writing it down, you have the copyright to your work.
The law says that?
Yes, the law says that.
You
have the copyright to your work. However, do not forget that although you own this copyright, yeah, and you do not need to do anything extra, somebody else can come to you and say, you copied it from them.
Yes.
And because you do not want there to be an argument about whether you were the one that has the ownership, that is, you are the creator of this work, right? Sometimes it is best for you to go ahead and register your copyright. So registering your copyright now involves you approaching the Nigerian Copyright Commission and letting them know that this is the work of the copy I have written, and I want you to protect it for me.
Let me get this straight. You have a document typed that is your idea.
Yes.
And because you feel there's so much uniqueness in this particular idea,
Yes.
you go as far as registering the idea, not a business now.
No, not a business. So what you are registering right
is
now
an idea.
is so that at least it can be on record that you are the first person to do this. Don't forget that that is not what gives you the rights to the copy. The copyright, by the virtue of creating it, you automatically have a copyright,
Okay.
which means that if somebody else copies it from you and takes it, for instance, they pirate your work, you wrote a book, somebody extracts everything from inside it, at that moment, you can sue them to court and say, this person has pirated my work, right? The court will not say, okay, did you register it? The court will not say that. The court will just tell you to prove to them that it is your original work. Once you prove that, oh, I was one that created it, probably you have written it and published it 10 years ago. It's already published. Everybody knows it's in the public domain, right? And then this person wrote theirs 3 years later. It's obvious to everybody that you were the first person to create it, right? But however, what if you've not published it? What if you just wrote it and it's in your house and nobody else knows? It becomes harder to prove, right? And one of the easy ways to proving that you actually were the one who created this copyright is to have registered it with the Copyright Commission. So that's what it does for you. It helps you to be able to prove that you were the one that owns that copyright. Yeah. So that's for copyright. We have other forms. So imagine that, okay, I am not a writer, I'm not a singer, right? I'm not a movie producer. What I do, however, is that I design, I paint, I draw, right? For this kind of intellectual property. So you have other forms of protection for it, right? So for drawing, if you paint, right, copyright will cover you. However, if you design a logo, and you as a business, you have a logo now, and you do not want anybody else to use your logo because you don't want them to be confused. When your customers come, so let's assume that you have a business, the name of your business is Miriam Enterprises. You've designed a beautiful logo, M and E, right, in lovely colors. You are in love with this logo, right? And then on your business card, you put the logo there. And tomorrow morning, you see somebody else with the exact same logo. You will not be happy. You'll be like, why are you copying me, right? However, there is no automatic right to a logo. Let me now make that clear. The designer of the logo, when they create that logo, the logo, because it is something that is written in quote, as a copyright. However, the copyright is only to ascertain the fact that they are the owners or the creator of that work. That does not mean that that logo has to be tied to a particular business.
Okay.
So if you now want to use a logo for a business in such a way that nobody else can use that logo, you want to go ahead and protect it by creating what we call a trademark.
Okay.
A trademark, as the name implies, is the mark of your trade, that everybody can know that this trade is mine. So whenever you see this logo anywhere, wherever you see this mark anywhere, you know that this mark belongs to me. Okay? And the protection for that one is a trademark. Now, to do a trademark, you want to approach the trademark patents and designs registry under the Federal Ministry of Trade and Investment in Abuja. Okay, I'm sure they have an online portal. You can go there, or if you can reach out to your lawyer, they will help you to register your trademark. Now, let's assume that, okay, you are not this design writing type. You're a scientist. You sat down in the lab. You thought about this very creative process of generating electricity, which nobody else has thought about before. In short, you've created an invention. And you do not want anybody else to use your invention. What do? The law that protects an invention is called a patent, right? What you do is that the same, trademark designs and patent registry is whom you approach and tell them, I have this patent, right, and I want you to protect it. So a patent requires you to have created a unique invention, or you have taken an existing invention and so developed it in such a way that it now has new abilities, for instance, or better efficiencies, right, in such a way that it now becomes a unique thing all by itself. And so the law protects that. For patents, usually you can enjoy your patent for 20 years. That means that nobody else will be able to use it without you giving them the rights to it. Okay. Right. After 20 years, patents usually expire.
Does trademark and copyright expire?
So copyrights too expire, right? Copyrights expire. I think for copyright it is 50 years, right? Trademarks do not necessarily expire because they are tied to a business. So you keep using your trademark.
So in the case of the ones that expire, how do you
renew it?
Well,
you don't necessarily renew a copyright. You cannot renew a patent. And the reason why you can't renew them is because now it's the beautiful thing about us human beings. Ideas rule the world, and the world will be stifled. Sorry, creativity and innovation will be stifled if people cannot use what you've created and build on top of it without having to come and meet you. So the idea, what the law does is that the law allows you to have enjoyed all the benefits, all the financial benefits you could have derived from it. And after some time, the law will now be like, you know what, this is now in the public domain, everybody use it as you like, right? So there are some work of literature that were written ages ago by authors, poets, who are now late, right? And they enjoy the copyright to their work. But right now it's in the public domain, anybody can use it as they like because the time has expired. And I mean, ideas aid creativity, and the ability for other people to be able to use an idea creates more innovation. Now, for those of us in the digital space, however, there are new kinds of innovations around how we protect intellectual property, especially.
We'll do that after this break.
Okay,
let's go on this quick break. The program continues. Please stay with us. you for staying tuned. You're still watching You and the Law on OGTV. Today we're taking a close look at how you can protect your intellectual property. Still on the program with me today is Abeokuta
Guru. Thank you.
I'm not
Thank you
missing
very
that
much,
again. So you were trying to give us how we could protect
in a digital age.
Digital age. I like that. So talk to us digitally.
Okay. So now there is this body, we call them Creative Commons. Now, a Creative Commons license is a license that allows you, as someone who has created something on the internet, to give a person the right to use your work. So we have different kind of Creative Commons license. We have use freely, we have use and attribute, right? So use and attribute means that if I use it, I have to give an attribution to the author. So there are plenty of things on the internet, for instance, which you can use because the Creative Commons license that covers it. And this has nothing to do with our federal government registering. It's just you as somebody who has created the work, you have the copyright to it. But however, you want somebody else to be able to use this. So you create you attach or you embed, because it's a technical protocol. So what this means is that there is a particular way it is programmed, something that is attached to that your work digitally, that automatically allows people to be able to use it. But in their usage, they would give attribution to you that this work belongs to. So this work was created by Miriam, but Mr. Ayo is allowed to use it. That's what that license that is embedded into that digital work does.
That's a good way to protect.
Yes. So the idea really is that so that a lot of things people can use and develop, because we are in an age where people are trying to encourage open knowledge, right? And open knowledge, open information, open data simply means that people want things to not be protected or hidden, like so that somebody else can
take
tap from it, not take credit, tap from it, learn from it, develop it, and before you know what, there are better innovations, more things that people are creating for a better world. Now that's that. However, let's talk about this, our friend. Let's call the name of this friend Miriam. So Miriam has this idea. She woke up in the middle of the night and she's like, wow, I have an idea, great idea, right? And then she wants to tell her friends. She has not written it down, she has not done anything.
Yeah.
Usually, there are certain kind of agreements that a person can use to protect ideas that have not even been actualized, because you want to communicate it with somebody. We call this agreement non-disclosure agreement. So a non-disclosure agreement is an agreement that you go into with someone in which you both have agreed that you're going to tell them something, but they are not allowed to disclose it to anybody else. Okay? We also call it confidentiality agreements. The idea is that whatever both of you talk about will stay between just the two of you, and nobody else can know about it.
And if there's a breach?
If there's a breach, then it's either you have specified what the remedies will be in terms of a breach, or if you've not specified it, at the point when the breach happens, you can quantumize the breach, right? And then based off that, see how you've suffered, and then ask a court to enforce the the agreements in favor of you, and then probably give you the claims that you are making, right? Now, that's one. We also have what we call non-compete agreements. A non-compete agreement is also a kind of agreement that protects an idea that you're about to convey to somebody. So you're saying, I have this great idea, I want to tell you about it, but I don't want you to compete with me. So that it's not like, okay, you're going to go and do it. You don't tell anybody, but you're doing it, right? That's not good for me. So we have non-compete agreements. Same thing, both of you agree that I'm going to tell you this idea, but you're not compete with me.
Let me quickly ask this question.
Okay.
You see, these days, a lot of young people, they go for innovative programs, they go for, all these opportunities that can support their dreams and innovation. And majority of the times, they submit their ideas, either at the idea level or even in practical form. I've had scenarios where people complain that this particular idea of mine, this company did not shortlist. Some of these companies don't even shortlist the candidates, even with their brilliant ideas. And then years after, you see like an exact replica of what you do. But because I think people are not aware, you understand, people are not aware of this part. Now you're saying this part of you signing an agreement with the person you are showing your work now. The person just decided wants to show you their work just for you to support them. But you took advantage of it because you have resources and all of that. So I need you to really emphasize on that part, especially for young people who are, you know, willing to give out their ideas for sponsors or investors to look into.
Miriam, I wish I could, but I can't, so I won't. And the reason is very simple.
Why?
In every negotiation, the person with the highest bargaining power wins. An investor will most likely not sign an NDA, that's a non-disclosure agreement with you, because you're the one looking for something from them.
So you stand a risk?
It's not that. So everybody and that's the beauty about life. See, law is made for men and not meant for law. So we have to apply the law to the reality of our lives.
Okay.
When you're talking with someone whom both of you have equal bargaining power, so say for instance, you want to share your idea with your friend, right? And you just want your friend to sign your friend might go ahead and sign, right? If it is a potential supplier, someone who wants to supply business to you, but at the same time, you do not want them to run away with your idea or just start telling people about it. They are looking for something from you. They might be very willing to sign a non-disclosure agreement. But an investor, who is most likely going to hear 50, 100 different ideas, and some of those ideas will look like one another, and some might even look like an idea he's already working on, does not want to sign an NDA with you. And that's the reality, right? And that's because you have a lower bargaining power. You're the one looking for something. And so I have to be very real. I, as a businessman, I run a startup. When I go to meet investors are not going to sign any NDA.
So what do you do?
Execute. Run your idea and run it very well.
So what executing, do you also run this protection backstage before?
So the best you can do, for instance, is if you have copyright, if you have code that is very unique, copyright it. If you have designed, say for instance, you have a website, you design it in such a unique way, register the copyrights to it, right? If you have an invention, patent it. If you have a logo that you use that you think that a lot of people are going to fall in love with and it's going to push your brand out there, register a trademark, okay? But for an NDA, it requires the other person to be able to agree with you.
Let me quickly ask this, because
Okay.
I know a lot of people watching would have this in mind. For some people who are attached to a particular organization, you work with this organization. Let's take music, for instance, and record labels.
Yeah.
You know, this particular record label signed you, and I don't know much about it, but I think your music, everything about you revolves around the record label. So in that situation, can you lay ownership on a song that is yours, but you're still working on that particular record label?
Okay, so for the entertainment industry, they have their own unique kind of agreements that they have between the parties. Okay, so when
this thing differs with sectors.
So it's not that it differs. You see, an agreement is just a conversation between two people where they reach a consensus and they agree to be bound legally. And then somebody now gives something in exchange for the position that the other person is taking. So that means that both of us at first agreed that we are going to have this conversation. It is also agreed between us that if one of us breaches this agreement, the law should take its course.
Yeah.
And then I also do something for you to make you do what you are doing, right? So probably I'm paying you a consideration one way or another. That's basically what an agreement is, right? However, an agreement is a real thing. If I don't agree, I don't agree. And so I want to sign what I don't agree to.
Okay.
And usually it is the person who is in the position to determine the terms that usually gets the advantage in an agreement. So in the music industry, that's what usually happens. You have a budding artist who is looking for somebody to sponsor his work, right? To sign him up to a label or sign her up to a label, right? And then she's looking for a record label, and the record label comes and says, okay, here's the deal. You're going to create 50 songs for us in the course of the next 10 years. For those 10 years, you're not allowed to create a song for anybody else. You're not allowed to go to a show for anybody else. And for each year that you do this, we'll pay you 10 million naira, right? It might be a lot to an artist who has been at home eating groceries and what's it called? Nuts, right? And so he's like, oh, wow, this is a good one, right? I'm going to go ahead and latch onto this idea. And they sign them up. 3 years down the line, the record label has really promoted their work. They are now a big artist. Everybody is in love with them. But they've locked themselves to a 10-year contract, where the only money they are going to get is 100 million naira split into 10 million naira every 10 years. every year rather, right? And so they might feel unfairly treated, but that's because at the initial stage, when they were yet to become a popular, what's it called, world
Star?
popular artist, right? They are yet to become a star, right? They had sold themselves short. And that is what they negotiated. That's what they agreed.
Is there any way to end such agreements?
So
Like,
what
I
usually
don't do
happens is
this.
that in those kind of contracts, we have what we call a buyout clause. It's almost like for footballers. There's a clause in it that states that if you want to buy this, your contract from us, pay this lump sum of money. So it might be like 200 million naira, straight up. And so another record label who says that this person is a very good artist, who will offer you something better, goes to pay that first record label the 200 million naira, and then your contract is over with them. And then they can now offer you better terms, right? But you have to really be a great artist. So it's all a risk, okay? It's a risk. So let's assume that you have an artist who you believe that, okay, over the course of the next 20 years, over the course of the next 10 years, we should be able to make 500 million naira from this artist. And you agree that you pay them 10 million naira every year, okay? That's great. You will pay them 100 million, you make 400 million. But what if this artist does not hit it? And you're already bound to pay them 10 million naira. Right? For some, it's also like a percentage. You say, I'll pay you 10 million naira, then every money we make from you, we give you 10%, etc., etc.
All right, let me cut you short there because time is really not by our side. Now, while we wrap up, I need you to emphasize on the need to protect intellectual property for all sectors now, whether the written form, the spoken, you know, for everyone watching. And I know this covers for both individuals and
businesses.
Businesses, yes.
Okay. All right, so thank you very much again, Miriam. So what I really believe is that there is already legal protection for whosoever is interested in protecting their intellectual property. However, you need to now take steps after this that you've learned from this show and go and do your research. Google is there. It's available for you, right? Do your research. Find out the kind of intellectual property that you've created and look for how best to protect it. Talk to your lawyers, consult from them. The most important thing is to realize that almost everything that you see that has been created was created by somebody. And there are some people who have not been able to enjoy their intellectual property because they did not protect it. And there are some that are really, really enjoying benefits from it. So take the extra step and take the legal requirements to protect your intellectual property. And I hope that you really enjoy the benefits that come from that.
Well, this has been a very amazing time, and I trust that our viewers are gathering one or two things for yourselves. Let me quickly add that you can send in your messages via the number displayed on the screen, and be rest assured that we will treat it on our next episode. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much, Miriam. It was my pleasure.
I think we need to come again, not come again, sort of like revisit this topic. I think it's a broad one, and we could look at it from another perspective.
No problem.
We could look at it as property, intellectual property theft, how it happens in real life and all of that.
All right.
Yes. And until I see you on the program next week where I bring you legal practitioners and the topic we will have for you, my name is Miriam Usman. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.